Stop listening! Instead, stream the uncut version of this discussion by either or both, tipping us on Ko-fi or joining a membership on either Ko-fi or Patreon via the links in the description. I wouldn't say we're being shellacked in the comments section for the clip on the Death Hogan, but have you seen the comments?
No.
There gotta be over 200 by now. Like, obviously, I didn't comment back on the blatant racism. Like, oh, it's YT people, talking about our traditions. I'm like, well, what can you say about that? Nothing.
We're educating ourselves, right? Are we supposed to ignore things in the show and just not talk about it because we're talking about your culture? I mean,
my mom still is afraid of police officers. The general community consensus is still, at least of that generation, that other people shouldn't know our business, that sort of thing, that we keep to ourselves. We don't talk to press or cops or anybody like that. It's kind of a general thing where, like, the more we say in public, the more we endanger the community on the whole, because that's where we grew up. Specifically in Damascus, in the Jewish quarter, they grew up as second-class citizens. We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing programs beyond the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh. Most times we go deep. I'm your host, David Cameo, and I'm joined by...
me, Blaze Gardner.
We're here to talk to you about Dark Wind's fourth episode of its fourth season titled Ániidí, which means the New World. We spent a little bit of time before we started the episode talking about a particular comment on our TikTok that blew up, that involved our conversation on Death Hogans. Folks on the res did not quite like what we had to say about it. Some of them said we got it wrong. Sharon and I hashed that out beforehand, and if you want to hear the whole about 15-minute conversation about us kind of going through that, you can get the unedited version of this podcast of us painfully going through all the ways in which we never want to get things like this wrong, but we do our best to get it right, and that we're just trying to learn and all that stuff. So tip us on Ko-fi or join a membership on either Ko-fi or Patreon. It's up for grabs. It's right in the beginning. And you may have even heard some snippets of it before the intro of this published version of the episode. Obviously, we have merch in our merch store, which you can head on over to squawkingdead.com, choose the main menu, choose shop merch, and off you go. There's some really cool designs in there that I think you'll really enjoy, especially the Fallout-based merch, which who knows how long that's going to be up there. I will do my best to work on maybe updating our Dark Winds merch as well, and I will show it to you once that's ready. Let's talk about this episode, The New World. How does the title, have you thought about this one, Sharon, relate to this episode?
Of course. Let me channel Rachel for the first one.
The obvious thing.
The obvious one, which is they're in LA, which is a new world to them. The New World is said in the episode by
Sonny Bearheart.
Have a drink, meet a chick. It's a new world, Mike.
All of our characters are kind of in a new world of their own. Joe is in a new world where he's not living with Emma. Emma's in a new world where she's in the city, which it's interesting that they've kind of switched places. Like he is now the one that is trying to do all of the
spiritual tending the garden.
Spiritual and sweating and all that. And she is the one who is in
LA.
The city. And you can tell when he gives her the stir sticks how much it means that she actually has a piece of home.
And she wants to know about gossip too. Even her picking up the phone, by the way, and getting the report of the accident on the freeway sounds like Joe, that he needed to go on the scene of a crime.
So, do you think that was a real call, or was that like a set-up emergency call?
This is the stuff I don't think about, but very good on you for you to think about it. I did not.
It would be super easy for her to have said somebody at Indian Health, be like, give me a call in 15 minutes. And she used it as an excuse to
I don't know.
Okay.
California or LA County or even, the whole Southern California, they're not alien to car accidents. So I kind of took it as gospel, but now that I'm thinking about it, the only thing that makes me think otherwise, this has to be quite the pileup for Kaiser, and I'm assuming that's short for Kaiser Permanente, the hospital, right, for Kaiser to have runoff that would spill over to the Indian Health Center.
To Indian Health, right.
Oh, Sharon D. Right. All right, okay. Maybe. I'll entertain
move on from that for a second. Even Chee, who is entering into this new world of the underworld, which he, while being an FBI agent, I'm assuming that he has not really been in this kind of position. Undercover in a big city, taking the drugs. He was so, what do I do here? Anyway.
Yeah, this is going to sound like a weird thing to say, but it's like a switcheroo because, bear with me when I say this. It was his old world. Then he came back to the res and worked with Joe and Bernadette, become a new version of himself. Then he came back to his old world, which to him is now again a new world.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there's a kind of a switcheroo. It's like coming back home, but home is unrecognizable.
Which I also want to say, he was like, Bernie, you left Chee. You left way before she did. That's all I'm saying.
She knows.
Okay. There's also another connotation to New World. When white people came over from Europe, they declared this the New World. But to the natives that already lived there, it was not a new world. It was their world. So there's that little extra boop in there.
Fair point. It's not going to come up organically, I don't think. So as I go into the Indian Center, there are signs in the background that are actually in Lakota, which was kind of like, wait, weren't Lakota from the Dakotas or like in and around the Dakotas area, Montana, Dakotas? And then I learned as I looked into this that, out of necessity and out of having to migrate, some of them made their way to the California area. So anyway, some of the signs up there, one of them said, remember the big thing in the 70s? The smiley face, have a nice day. Okay. The one sign that says, Anpetu waste uhapi kate, that means have a nice day in Lakota. There was another sign in the background as they meet with the agent, Department of the Interior, the Federal Bureau of the American Indian. In the background, I couldn't make it out, but I'll probably put it in the episode. I couldn't make out exactly what it said, but there was another sign. And I think it just meant reception. There were a bunch of tribes represented in the Indian Center. And I don't think we're going to have time to really talk about that part. And it's not even in my notes because there's so many notes that I have.
It would be reasonable in LA for there to be a mix of native, I'm going to say tribes, but native cultures.
Right, native peoples.
Right. That just makes sense, especially Sonny
Bearheart?
Yeah, I'm going to say barefoot for some reason. That wasn't sounding right. Sonny Bearheart was saying that the only things you could do is get a crap job or be an actor as long as you're willing to play Indian number one. So, I mean, if you go back and watch like Little House on the Prairie episodes, those are not native peoples that are playing the Indians in any stretch. Those are like Italians, darker skinned people. Very few of them are actually Native Americans in those roles.
Right.
In the old Westerns. 50s was really the rise of the Western, but in the 70s, a fairly progressive time, and it was still no natives.
It still existed. I mean, even the guy that plays Joe's father has been in some really, really good movies and shows back in the day. I forget his name now. I did see his name today. He's a pretty legendary Native American. We talked about him actually in our recaps too. The guy who plays Joe Leaphorn's father, Henry Leaphorn.
I'm not saying there were none.
No, of course.
I'm just saying usually it was not. It
was a different time, Sharondy.
I read a lot of history. I understand that.
But there's another new world at the very least. We finally got her name, Irene Vaughan, because her Opa, her grandfather, is Gunther Vaughan in Luger and SS Regalia. So there's that. I don't know if we're going to even have time to talk about this. We might as well talk about this now. What is the deal with her and her grandfather? Because they're in a bunker, clearly. And there's a lot of talk about bunkers in this episode, but let's just focus on this one for now. She is playing him propaganda films from the US to keep him in the era, and he has memory problems. I don't know what's going on here. I have no grip on who Irene is, because in some senses, the show is painting her as a sympathetic character. Do you feel that way also?
Yeah, like she's taking care of her grandpa, and she's not getting paid for this job because she messed up. We should feel some kind of thing for her, even though she's murdering
brutally murdered Ashley Begay, 2 in the chest.
Apparently she's got this weird fixation with Joe.
Right. I feel like I have a better grip on that at least.
Weird fixation. When she's coming into the bunker, you can hear her radio playing. The guy on the radio is selling bunkers. Captain Midnight's real name is Roger Schutt, Schutt. He was a key figure in the 70s country outlaw movement, which included Waylon Jennings and the Bad Boys of Country back in the 70s. He actually wrote the liner notes on one of Waylon Jennings' albums. The country outlaw movement was the cowboy shoot 'em up kind, like we're going to ride our horses and shoot up all the things. So I just thought that was very interesting. That's who she was listening to. He was a DJ.
A radio disc jockey.
That wasn't like an advertisement. He was reading copy.
So he's reading copy for this movement?
Well, he was reading copy for the underground bunker. Like that was just his like in-show advertisement. He wasn't on the radio to sell that. That was just one of his products that he was hawking on the radio. But
that's cool because I had not read up on that because I was trying to like nail it down a little bit better because the stuff I was finding wasn't quite in the same era because this is taking place in 1972 for sure now. And the only thing I found out about the Captain Midnight part was the 1979 film On the Air with Captain Midnight, wherein a pirate radio disc jockey runs a station from a van.
That was kind of based on him.
And then there's an 80s thing where a guy who called himself Captain Midnight for 4 minutes and 36 seconds disrupted HBO to protest their scrambling of their cable services on satellite. But that was obviously after the time.
So the outlaw country movement is a 70s and 80s subgenre characterized by artists, notably Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, and Johnny Cash, gaining creative control, breaking away from polished Nashville sound studio production. It blends rock, folk, and honky-tonk with rebellious themes. Famous songs include Are You Sure, Hank, Done It This Way, and Whiskey River.
What was their whole shtick, though? Bringing back the Wild West sort of situation?
The recording studios had complete control over what they put out, kind of like what they do now.
Mm-hmm.
So they were fighting against that.
So the industry.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was more like an FU to the music industry at the time. Okay. Well, I really wanted to nail down the cult group that was running these kinds of fallout shelters out in Texas. Let's check this out. I was really drilling hard because there's a couple. Let me just do the whole thing. In 1972, the group that best fits my description of what I was trying to nail down, operating in Texas and driven by Malthusian-style survivalism, because Malthusian means population crisis, was the Summit Lighthouse, which was the precursor to the Church Universal and Triumphant cult. The shorthand is CUT. While other groups were active in Texas that year, the Summit Lighthouse was unique in directly linking spiritual evolution, quote unquote, with the physical necessity of surviving a global resource and population collapse. The Summit Lighthouse, precursor to Church Universal and Triumphant, by 1972, this group was a well-established religio-political movement in Texas and beyond, led by Mark and Elizabeth Clare Prophet. Their Malthusian doctrine was, their core text, Climb the Highest Mountain, published in 1972, outlined a worldview where conspiratorial forces, quote unquote, and global mismanagement were leading to terminal world catastrophe. The survivalism part, they were early adopters of the survivalist label, viewing the 1970s as a period of extreme crisis and disaster, quote unquote. This belief eventually led them to build their infamous massive fallout shelters, as they believed only a prepared elite would survive the coming famine and war. Their Texas presence, so before their mid-80s move to Montana, the group maintained a heavy presence in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and East Texas, where they recruited and began their first survivalist preparations. By the way, this is heavily documented by Syracuse University. Shout out to Syracuse University. This could also be referring to, and I would probably say this is the more likely of the two main cults, the early phases of the Heaven's Gate cult. Though in its infancy in 1972, the beginning of Heaven's Gate in Houston also reflected Malthusian anxieties. This is from Encyclopedia Britannica. Shout out to the Encyclopedia Company back in the day.
I had those encyclopedias.
I know. Didn't we all have at least one that we borrowed, quote unquote, from a friend that we never gave back? Shouting myself out, I guess.
When I was staying at my grandmother's house and I would run out of books to read, I was young. I was probably 9, 10, 11 years old. Just pick a volume and sit down and just start reading the encyclopedia.
It was one of the first few things that included the pictures. It was like the Reader's Digest of encyclopedias, basically. It's a condensed form of just basically world knowledge that I really enjoyed too.
Can you imagine how big the encyclopedia set would have to be today to include all of the things? Because this was in the 70s.
Right.
So all of the things that have happened since the 70s.
And what they decided to curate versus what
massive.
they didn't too. It's just hard to imagine, really.
For all you youngsters out there, an encyclopedia is Wikipedia that's printed out.
And not crowdsourced.
And put in a book form.
And heavily researched and not crowdsourced so as to not invade actual facts. Looking at you, Wikipedia. Okay. Let's brush up on the Heaven's Gate cult. So their whole thing was recycling the earth. Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles met in 1972 and began developing a theology that viewed the earth as a quote-unquote garden that had become overgrown and quote-unquote weedy. The Malthusian element, they taught that the planet's human civilization, quote-unquote, was about to be quote-unquote recycled or quote-unquote spaded under because it had exceeded its usefulness and was plagued by quote-unquote Violence, Crime, and War, a direct spiritual adaptation of the Malthusian fear of population reaching its breaking point. And this is referenced in SF Gate and a bunch of other periodicals. The total list of Texas groups that were operating around that time, obviously the Summit Lighthouse was the precursor to the Cut, which was the Church Universal and Triumphant, Heaven's Gate, just forming in Houston, Children of God, and the Branch Davidians also, which kind of links a little bit better to what you were just talking about, because I know that was right in Waco, Texas, Seventh-day Adventist offshoot at the time. We talked about another cult in the last season, which kind of felt like...
Wasn't it the season before that? It was the People of Darkness.
No,
right?
no.
Is that who you're talking about?
The People of Darkness, that was BJ Vaughn's thing.
That was
No,
season 2.
When we were talking about the weird dude with the face, how the kids would go to the farm, and do you remember the commune?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we were like, oh yeah, what communes around 1971 were at the time? And then like we read about this because I was developing a theory about how trying to narrow down what cults that was ran by a female, and then
that turned out to be almost nothing.
I know exactly.
In the show, it was like a total mislead.
Yeah, completely.
Unless it comes out to somehow mean something in this season or next season, but I was just like, now that we're talking about it, that storyline actually didn't go anywhere except they found.
It's so disappointing.
Bernadette's picture there was the only thing it was like. That was the only thing it was good for. Okay.
Well, it's just that they were selling the drugs from. What was the cartel called down there? I forget. And from there, we go into the res and then go out from there to throughout the country, basically. Very national drug running operation that they helped out with. Wait, so we were talking about the New World. We're talking about, okay. I'm going backwards to how we even got here, which was Opa Gunta. So you talked about the radio station as she was going in. As she's also going in, you spy that this fence is completely booby-trapped with frag grenades. And obviously, they're living in a fallout shelter where she's showing propaganda films, American propaganda films. What he was referencing before was what the propaganda film was talking about, how we have to cut down on meat consumption because of the war effort. We can't afford to eat meat now or something like that. And it's funny because the restaurant that Joe goes to with Emma is a vegetarian restaurant. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about, I just want to drop that pin and then we'll go back to it. But I want to just talk about what she's doing with him. Obviously, he's just like B. Senna, Gordo's wife. He also is having some sort of dementia or Alzheimer symptoms of some kind. He doesn't recognize her at first. He announces himself as though she doesn't, you don't know who I am. It's like, no, you're my grandfather. So sorry. He apologizes, kind of heartbreaking. What do you think is going on there? Because as far as I could tell, she's trying to keep him in a time period, maybe?
That is probably to keep him comfortable in his dementia.
Yeah.
Because introducing him to strange new things, from what I see, she doesn't have a whole lot of time to spend easing him every day. So my guess would be that somehow she helped him escape Nazi Germany.
Okay.
And instead of going to Argentina, they came here.
Oh.
They must have had some kind of money to build this compound.
Kind of money. And maybe because of her.
Again, I'm assuming that she was in Nazi Germany. Having a grandfather like that probably got her into the business that she is in now.
Right.
That's all you know. Maybe her parents were killed in Germany. Maybe they're still there. Maybe her grandfather was the one who was taking care of her. And so she feels obligated to take care of him.
I wrote that in my notes too, because when he says the thing about the meat, he says it as though one day I'll take care of you. One day I will bring home the steak.
The beef, yeah.
And I think maybe you're right. That was true at one point, but I think it's truer that she's taking care of him now, which is, again, heartbreaking. It's like, why are you making me feel these things, show?
He obviously does not know that they are in America.
Right. And maybe this makes him feel better to know that Americans
I'm guessing
are suffering.
He never leaves this bunker.
Right. He can't. Of course he can't. Not anymore. But there is a bit of a parallel because when you were talking about this is all she felt like she could do, it's somewhat the same conversation that Chee and Sonny Bearheart are having. Like, you're coming here and the two jobs that you may or may not get, you probably won't get, are a crappy job or Indian number one in this film or TV show. And Sonny's here like, here's an alternative to that, is joining me in my cause or whatever that may be. We get a hint of that from the girl who talks to Billy in the show. Like, oh, they're criminals. Albert and he were criminals, basically.
I also have to assume it wasn't easy for her when they came to America, because this would be probably immediately post-war, where Germans were not particularly well liked in America at that time. There were lots of Germans in America, but I'm saying like
It's a
a
mixed
newly
bag.
arrived
For sure.
German. So I'm assuming she probably didn't have a very easy time when she first brought her grandfather. We're assuming because we don't know what's happening, but this is the clues they're throwing out there. So I'm just kind of running with that. Given what we saw in this episode, I'm feeling that she had to get him out or he was going to end up with all of the other
People who were
Nazis at The
tried.
Hague or whatever.
Right.
A lot of Nazis escaped to Argentina and South America.
Yep.
And maybe that was just
Brazil.
not an option for them. So she decided to come to
Well,
America.
especially with them being captured. Maybe they were in Argentina. Maybe they were in Brazil, but they made their
Right.
way out because their friends or whatever were being captured. Actually, wasn't it right around the 70s when they were picking them up for a trial?
Yes, yes.
And they held the trials
70s
in
and
the
80s, because
80s?
I remember hearing
Yeah.
about it in the 80s
Exactly.
a lot. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I think we're getting closer. See, because the only reason why I'm pro talking about this, absent any real sort of proof, is that I don't believe the show is going to go that much into how this came about.
Mm.
And so we're just kind of prepping it for kind of like our cult conversation from last season. It's like, oh, that went nowhere, basically.
Right.
Oh, it turns out the woman wasn't the cult leader.
I feel like they're showing us this to inform us as to why she's doing what
Yeah.
she's doing and how she is the person that she is. She's obviously deep into some kind of criminal thing because she was in the prison
Mhm.
talking to the man who has a trial next week.
I'm going to assume that guy is McNair, too.
Right.
The McNair that was mentioned at the beginning.
Right. So now we know why she was after the certain people that she was after. And since Leroy did not show up to this party, I feel like that leans a little more credence to him being the guy that's out
Oh, Philip Grayson?
at Philip Grayson. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Billy runs her mouth at the party to Tawny, right? The girl that was talking to Chee earlier.
Billy is obviously not well versed in how to be a criminal because
Right.
let me go to LA and just start asking about this guy after I saw people get murdered in front of me, but that's cool.
Right. The fact that McNair, we're assuming this is McNair, knows about this. Obviously, she's running her mouth around town, which obviously when I heard this, I was frustrated by, but at the same time, I'm like, okay.
She's 16 and she's been in a Catholic school.
Exactly.
So what experience is she going to have?
And if I'm frustrated at all, it's because I don't want her to die. That's really what it is. I don't want to mourn you later. That's all my frustration is. Okay, so after that, the other girl who was listening in, I think she's associated with the feds or whoever's monitoring this place that Joe gets tackled by later. She takes Billy near the back door and she says something to the effect of, I actually wrote this down because I wanted to get it right.
She gave her version of the incestuous aliens dunk speech.
The girl that talks to Billy? Yeah. This is a criminal organization, dunk, Billy. Okay. So she says GTFO because you're in over your head. But then she says declaratively, Leroy's at the reservation. And who told you that he's back in LA? How do you know that he's back in LA? She never answers, obviously, but she does mention that Albert's dead, which shakes her. Leroy sounds smart, okay? It wouldn't be that much effort for either Leroy or for the blonde woman / German woman / Irene to have bought that ticket. Because from the conversation with McNair, do you believe that Leroy is actually dead and Irene actually got to him?
No, I think he's on the reservation. I think he's the guy hanging out in the Airstream.
I hope that's the case because Irene makes it seem like she got him.
I don't think so because she couldn't find where they were. She was probably trying to get Albert to take her there, but he ended up shooting at her instead. And so I don't think she found Leroy. And I mean, Leroy's like, my name's Philip Grayson. And blah, blah, blah. Of course, you're not going to tell
You're really hung up on it. Yeah.
two random people rolling up in a cop car like, oh, yeah, here, I'm this guy. The green van is known to that girl because she's like, yeah, if you see that green van, you need to get out of there. You know,
right.
I think that is Leroy on the reservation.
I just want to say this just to say this because it could be that Leroy booked the bus tickets and never went on them or paid somebody to take it all the way to LA. Or Irene got somebody to pay for those tickets, got that person to call himself Leroy. Could have faked ID. Who knows what it was? You didn't really need too much ID to ride on the bus back then. Paid somebody to go all the way to LA and took care of business too. I just want to put that in the air in case that ends up being the case because the way she's talking to McNair, it sounds like the package has been delivered, you know? She makes it sound like she actually took care of Leroy. And even the girl that talks to Billy in the bar feels like Leroy is still there, right? To lend credence to your theory, still at the reservation. So now, just according to the show, I'm a little bit all confused because who do I believe in this scenario? Who has more information? Sonny Bearheart keeps telling Chee that Leroy's going to show up, but I think Sonny Bearheart's sniffing Mike Garcia, quote unquote, out. I don't think he believes him at
And
all.
he did not handle those drugs well at all.
Would you have?
No, especially since he's not a drug user.
And especially since you're right about him hallucinating, because as Bernadette's taking him away from post-barf, he's looking around like, where's all the blood and guts I just vomited?
When Sonny Bearheart walked up to him and handed him the handkerchief, you were like, oh, his nose is bleeding. But I didn't look super close, but I also don't remember seeing any blood on the handkerchief when he pulled it away from his nose. That scratch that keeps festering, it has something moving around in it or something. That is all hallucination. There's nothing in his side.
I was thinking the same thing. Oh, it just has an ouchie. It's like not even a scratch. It's just like, it's a little red. This goes in hand with like superstition too. And this is where the show wants us. The show wants us in the whole, is it ghost sickness? Is it? Or is it just psychosomatic? He's seeing something from his past.
He's just having a breakdown.
It'd be one thing if the drama with Joe was happening after the scratch, but it was happening before the scratch. Just like LA, there's a lot going on right now. I feel bad for him too.
I don't feel like he had any kind of issues until he started thinking about his mom.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a delayed PTSD or something. I don't know.
That was my initial instinct from the last episode.
And then feeling betrayed by Bernadette and Joe is kind of just exacerbating that instead of getting the comfort that he needs because he feels betrayed. He was such a jerk. Indian Center. Like, dude.
Well, by the way, there's a lot more that people should really take away from that moment. Meet you there, right?
Yeah.
Number one, we don't have cell phones. We don't have GPS. So when he says meet you there, he doesn't know if they have a map of the area. He's like, meet you there. Call me on my cell. No, there's no cells. There's no Jeep. There's none of that. Figure it out. I'll meet you at the Indian Center at this street in this
Wilshire
street.
and something.
It's like as if they know. They don't know. He knows that they don't know. F you, figure it out. Basically, that's how bad that is for people to understand the full picture of the gravity of that situation. People that are younger than 30.
I didn't even think about it until he's like, get the map. And I was like, oh, yeah, they don't have
map
GPS.
is in the glove box, right? That everybody had to have.
Which I have used many maps I used for years because I like to drive around Florida and I had a Florida atlas.
So I should tell the audience, and I don't know that I've said this out loud. When I bought my first car myself with my own money in 2007, I took from my old car all these MapQuest printouts. MapQuest. That's still a thing, actually, but I'd printed out from the early 2000s, late 90s, etc., that I carried throughout different cars. And I still have it in my newer car today. I still have all those maps to kind of just take with me as a memento, just to give you people the picture that, yeah, you couldn't use your phone that way, even in the 2007s, late 2000s.
No,
basically.
you had candy bar phones and flip phones at that time. There was
and even
no
then, yeah, what were you
smartphone.
doing? You weren't looking, there was no internet on your phone.
You still had to use a map or an atlas to get where you wanted to go.
Road maps the whole time. Anyway, which is to say, that's mean of Chee. He doesn't even wait for them to follow him. That's how mean that is.
Indian Center. So then they're like, where do we go from here? He's like, reception. Like, dude, like,
what are you, an idiot?
Although, Joe, you are a grown man who is a detective and you don't think that the first place you need to go is reception. Okay, Chee, I'll give you that one. That was kind of
to be fair to everybody involved, and actually to go back to your question about Chee's disposition, when they get to reception, not helpful. She was less helpful at the reception place than the Department of the Interior guy, the agent, the federal agent.
I mean, at least he was like, "Hey, it's all red tape." Nothing,
exactly.
I do.
She was just like, made of red tape.
She was just like, "No, haven't seen her over there. Go, lady."
Right? Can't help you. Sorry. Oh, wait, what? Your whole thing is to help people.
Maybe she's having to deal with dummies every day who walk in and go, "No, where do I go?"
So yes, this is the bigger point that I'm going to make: is that we talked about feeling abandoned by his mom for dying. When parents die and you're at a critical age, it feels like abandonment, even though it's not their fault. Two, I think between the town turning on his mom at the res and the Indian Center and all the Indians, which is, by the way, Burns' reaction as they exit the car at Wilshire and Oxford, where the center was, she's like, the res is here. All these people are Indian or Native American. Whatever res they came from, they all poured into this area because they're all around us right now. You can look at it on her face. So when they get there, it's not like on the res. Why there are so many Native Americans here is because it's so easy to get lost. It's so easy to be impersonal. And so He was abandoned by his mom. He was abandoned by his original res. And then he felt abandoned by his own community in LA. And that's reflected in the receptionist, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
We're not really here to help you. We're not really here to help you feel connected. But this is as connected as you're going to get. So you
Which
get a
is
bigger
why
picture.
so many of them end up turning to people like Sonny Bearheart, because he's like, hey, I understand what you're going through, buddy. Here's a few dollars. Go get a room, clean yourself up, get some rest.
Why wouldn't you?
Right. That's naturally the way you're going to go when you get such cold shoulders from everybody else.
Right.
Let me ask you something real quick. So, do you think this is the first time Bernadette has been to like a big city? Now, I know she did the thing with Elvis, but I don't remember where she was when she met Elvis. I don't remember what she said.
I think they were both in the army. Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Because she was looking around like, wow, look at this. It's crazy
Yeah,
here.
I
Or
think
maybe
you
like
might
it's
be
just
right.
been a long time since she's been somewhere like that.
I think she's probably been to cities, and nothing really prepares
Right.
you for LA, by the way. I mean, I've been there a couple times, but it's one thing to say LA is spread out. But when you get to certain pockets of LA, classically, it does feel overwhelming. Not for me, I'm from New York City. It's nothing. But like, I can see people being like, this is a lot to take in.
You live in a place that has a small population in an area of 27,000 miles. I live out in the country now, and when I go to a big city, I'm like, whoa. Like, and I've been there before. I've been to many of them. I grew up in Jacksonville. I've been in Atlanta.
It's that double reaction of like, it's overwhelming and it's big. And they're literally in downtown LA.
Oh, yeah.
But then to get out of the car and it's like, wait a minute. The res is in this big city. It's a lot to take in.
Did you notice the movie on the marquee?
Yes, I did.
Jeremiah Johnson, Robert Redford, of course,
Yeah.
who was an executive producer and who recently passed away. Jeremiah Johnson is a Western directed by Sidney Pollack, starring Robert Redford as a man who leaves civilization to become a mountain man in the Rocky Mountains, learning to survive harsh conditions and conflicts with Native American tribes, inspired by the life of legendary frontiersman Liver-Eating Johnson.
Yeah, I'm glad they went with Jeremiah. When was the movie released? 1972? Mm-hmm.
For all of you who are like into GIFs, not GIFs,
I mean, GIFs?
there's a very famous one from Jeremiah Johnson, which is Robert Redford turning around and smiling in the snow. He's got like the long blonde hair, and he turns around and smiles. That's from Jeremiah Johnson.
Which kind of looks like Zach Galifianakis, but it's Jeremiah Johnson.
A blonde Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah,
baby.
exactly. Well, there's a lot of things that lead up to that part, by the way, the marquee. I'm going to put this in the episode, by the way. As they're walking out of the Indian Center, as they walk towards the car, the Nixon shirts. I don't know if you caught this. Nixon's the one shirt. There's another shirt that says Nixon 1972. And the next shirt says Nixon Agnew 72, which has a nice ring to it. Right? 1972. Here we are.
Yeah, 1972. Hey, who knows what happened in 1972 concerning Nixon and all that stuff?
Oops.
No? Anybody?
So wait, it gets better because these shirts are being sold in front of a place called Travel and Business Apparel. Obviously, the shirts out front are gimmicky shirts designed to get you into the store. But the Travel and Business Apparel place is depicting the coastline of where we leave Tom Spencer in the last season. Remember Tom Spencer Ranch, and all that stuff? And he takes his wife to this weird coastline that they see outside their window, which we said is Asora, Morocco. This is all happening really fast in the background as they're walking back to the truck. Cool little Easter egg for people who watch the show carefully. Okay, so this is going to be a dumb thing. Do you think Sonny is suspicious of Chee the moment he mentions both Leroy and Albert Gorman?
Yes.
Why do you think that is? Because I feel like this is connected to more Leroy than it is Albert. Because I don't think Sonny knows that Albert is dead.
You know some dudes are mixed up in some stuff. And then some dude just shows up and is like, I'm looking for this guy who was an old army friend of mine. Maybe he knew people in the division he said he was in or something. I mean, choosing a lie like that, the chances are slim, but there's always the chance
that you screw up somewhere?
That you've screwed up somewhere. You know that these guys are being looked for. Obviously, he knows that they're in trouble. And then some random guy just shows up and starts asking for
about them.
You're immediately going to be suspicious. And it did not help that he asked about him repeatedly
while he was effed up.
My friend had a ring just like that. Maybe that's a special ring that you shouldn't know about.
So I did a little tinkering because I had a suspicion, but I feel like that ring is one that you get from the Marines. There is a type of ring that you can get that Marines do typically get. It is a pinky ring, I guess, on this show, but it doesn't have to be. It has a black stone and sort of a gold inlay in the middle. It shows your branch, Marines. On the sides, it shows where you served and what division you're in, usually. And if that's the case, because he said Albert and Sonny Bearheart both had the same ring, could it be their gang signet ring, let's say? Maybe.
Props to Chee for even noticing that the rings were the same, because I did not catch that until he said it.
Yeah, it's the fact that he said it.
We just said they don't have smartphones and they don't have the internet, so it's not like he can just look
like I
that
did.
kind of stuff up. And he didn't go looking for Sonny. Sonny just showed up on him, so he had to come up with something really fast that sounded reasonable.
Right. Maybe he used Shorty Bowlegs' service. But what I was going to say was, what if Albert and Sonny Bearheart were both in the service, both Marines, and both had that same type of ring?
Another thing that we have to think about is we're still actively in Vietnam. This is something that somebody could know, even if he wasn't in the service.
Yeah, one of the last frames in the last season was of people climbing onto the back of a pickup to go to war. I forget who that was, actually. Right? Do you remember that scene?
Oh, yeah. The kid got drafted. It was the long hair stoner kid, and he got drafted. And he kept talking about running off, and Bernadette talked him into going.
Right.
Which we never found out what happened to him, so...
Well, they also kind of depicted it as him disappearing or whatever, which is sad because we will never know his fate because that's how the show's just going to march on, basically. Okay, so yeah, they may have been both Marines, Albert and Sonny Bearheart. Maybe. It's possible. Could be the gang ring. Fine. I guess we'll find out more about that at some point.
When Chee was arguing with Bernadette and he was like, you and Joe didn't think I could handle it. Isn't that why you didn't tell me? And I'm like, and look how you're behaving about it, Chee. Maybe there's some truth behind that because you're acting very much like a child.
Yes and no, but would you say that to Emma? Because it's kind of the same. Joe didn't tell Emma because he didn't want her to worry, and then she left him.
But it's not really the same thing because...
No, it's not, obviously. But it's the same principle, right? You thought I couldn't handle it, and so you didn't tell me.
I see what you're saying, but I feel like there's a big difference in the context between them.
Yeah, the context, but not the principle. The principle is the same. But really, isn't it that you wanted to avoid as long as humanly possible, or possibly never? If I had the option, I'd never tell Chee or I'd never tell Emma. Certainly the case for Joe in terms of telling Emma.
Even if you put it in the context, well, Chee is having these delusions or he's, remembering his mom or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be the leader, you have to be able to handle that.
That's a good point, too.
Kind of thing, right?
It's like very unfortunate that he's going through all this mysterious trauma / sickness / psychosomatic weird, because it doesn't help his case. Because I don't think it's because of all this.
Emma wasn't openly disdainful to Joe either. I'm talking about when they just met in the diner. Thanks for my stir sticks, Joe.
Exactly.
She wasn't like that at all. There's a difference in behavior there.
Right.
Which I looked up the stirring sticks. That was pretty cool.
I did too.
They are typically made of grease wood, and they're used to stir things like corn mush, etc. As long as you have them, your home will always have food.
Beyond their culinary use, like you said, they are considered sacred, protective household items that symbolize defense against hunger and poverty. They are a staple in traditional Navajo homes, often kept clean and treated with respect rather than just used as decoration. But yeah, going back to Chee, two things can be true here. Chee is definitely upset that he was passed up. For sure, he's confirming that 100%, especially considering how Byrne left, which of course is how he feels about his mom's passing. There is this parallel here. It's not really that Byrne left, it's that his mom left and his community abandoned him in both spots. However, he's also upset that neither Joe nor Bernadette thought he could handle being told that he was being passed up for a promotion. They didn't even give him the chance. Same as Emma. He didn't give her a chance to see if she could handle it, the secrets that he was keeping. And I think that's the majority reason why Emma's upset, because I want to side with Byrne and Joe, because obviously he's going through something else that isn't helping his case. And I think he's resorting to kind of cheap digs at Bernadette, obviously, but it's not about that. It's about really what he's going through right now. It's kind of like House. You remember watching House? How a lot of his ornery disposition is a result of him going through so much pain all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like how I kind of attributed that whole thing, except with Chee, it's pain / some sort of weird psychosomatic hallucinatory trauma response, essentially. It's not helping his case, but again, this whole series right now is a lot. It's hard to nail down what exactly is the source of all this drama or trauma. But again, two things can be very true. By the way, we should say this out loud to the audience. There are so many song references in this in this episode. AMC / Dark Winds definitely paid a lot of licensing fees to put all the songs in this episode.
They took over the Better Call Saul music budget.
Yeah, the references in terms of the songs themselves, accurate to the year, almost around the year that they were released. James Brown was around 1970. The War song was from 1972, Slipping Into Darkness.
Black Dog was Led Zeppelin.
Yep, the Doors song in the beginning that you were very interested in talking about.
The End of the Night.
67.
Wow. That is a song by The Doors.
Wait, before you go into that, I just want to say out loud, we're not going to talk about all of them. If you want,
No.
I have every single song I have the meaning of in my pre-squawk insights. If you want to get that again, you can go to tip us on ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or join a membership on either Ko-fi or Patreon. I make those available when we release an unedited version of this podcast along with that. I know you particularly wanted to talk about the Doors song.
Right. Well, I feel like
beginning.
this one had the most bearing on the episode. Some of the lyrics are, some are born to sweet delight, some are born to endless night. That is a couplet from Robert Blake.
Oh,
From a poem called The Auguries of Innocence.
cool. Okay.
The whole poem symbolizes lives marred by tragedy, depression, or severe adverse circumstances. Some people are born to that and some people are not. So, like, the Native Americans are born to live in squalor while rich white people, like the movie executive or whatever that Irene murdered.
Was it a movie executive?
I'm guessing. I don't know.
I thought it was
He
a
was in LA.
detective.
He had a really nice house.
It looked like she was flipping through case files.
Watching on the screen, I can't see really close details or anything. So I got the feeling because they were in LA and he had a super banging house that he was like some kind of movie exec or whatever.
How does that match with the Truth Dies With Me that she wrote on the wall?
Maybe he's a famous rich white dude who knows something and he was being, I mean, who knows?
Very lonely one, by the way. He only has pictures of him and his dog. I know.
Oh, that reminds me. You were saying, are we supposed to be feeling bad for her or feeling? Look, if she killed that dog, then I don't have any
Oh, we never got
kind
to see
feelings
that.
toward her.
She gives the dog steak, not her
Yeah.
opa. So
Yeah.
what's that all
So
about?
basically, it's a song about the duality of human existence. Some
Right.
people are born to live good, happy lives, and some people are born into slavery or into the horribleness that some people live. And it's kind of like the injustice of it, which I just thought was really interesting given the duality in a lot of this episode. We talked about Joe and Emma switching places. And the duality of reservation them and then LA, especially Chee in particular, reservation Chee and LA Chee. And it's interesting that there's a lot of duality this season between people.
Yeah. Even the way Joe mentions to Bernadette how her way is messy. And really, they're talking about Bernadette handling Chee, but they're both talking about each other. He's saying her way is messy. Meanwhile, you can make the criticism that maybe Joe should be more messy with Emma, should be more emotional or chaotic with Emma, rather than reserved and cordoned off. And he's being too austere with Emma, where he should be more messy. And Bern should be more, maybe the advice is right. Maybe Bern should be more emotionless and just be logically transparent with Chee and not emotionally chaotic.
We have another mention of messy, and that's when our guy in jail tells Irene that she's created a mess
to get a mop
to clean it. So it's parallel between Bern and Irene, or even between Joe and Irene, where Joe is not using emotion and Irene has maybe got too much emotion.
100%. Yep. Yeah. Diametrically opposed. Sure. Well, yeah, because after their meeting, she whacks at her green Volkswagen and sits on the glass. You notice that, right?
Yes. Why are you destroying your own car?
Yes, destroy somebody else's car.
You just smashed in your window of your own car and you're just complaining that you don't have money, but now you're going to go and bash in the window of your car that you now have to fix, you dum-dum.
Right, you big old dummy.
She can get pulled over for having a rearview mirror busted off, by the way. That's a good way to get caught. Just saying.
It's a very good point.
Maybe she's screwing all this up because she's more interested in Joe than getting the job done. That's where her emotional mess lies. Here's another thought. Would Nazi grandpa appreciate her hanging out with a Native American man?
If he knew he was even in America. Maybe. No, I have no idea. Who knows, really? Because half the time he doesn't know who she is.
Right.
Probably. And then he remembers and is very apologetic and it makes me very sad for the Nazi guy. Ooh. Okay, so your beloved Doors song is also a reference to the translation of this book into English is Journey to the End of the Night. It's a novel by Louis Ferdinand Céline. The French title is Voyage au bout de la nuit. It's a landmark 20th century literature known for its extreme nihilism, as you're kind of alluding to, about being born into a certain class and there's nothing you can do about it, and revolutionary use of colloquial language. The core narrative about this is it's a semi-autobiographical odyssey following the cynical anti-hero Ferdinand Barthélemy across 3 continents. World War I. Enlisting in a fit of enthusiasm, Barthélemy quickly realizes the absurdity, quote-unquote, of war and attempts to escape its senseless slaughter. Colonial Africa. He manages a trading post in the jungle, finding only corruption, exploitation, and quote-unquote oppressive madness. In the United States, he works on a dehumanizing Ford assembly line in Detroit and wanders through New York, finding, that's a very big jump, by the way, Detroit then to New York, finding society's industrial life equally hollow. And in the Paris suburbs, Barthélemy finally returns to France to practice medicine among the poor, dealing with botched abortions and hopeless cases in a bleak fictional suburb. Again, this is like the nihilism, you're born into this, there's no escape from this. The only way to climb up is through corruption, but you're taught that that's a bad thing, and there you go. Key themes and style, nihilism and misanthropy. The novel represents a world where suffering and death are the only quote-unquote eternal truths. Human progress is viewed as an illusion, and characters are often driven by quote-unquote gratuitous hatred. Revolutionary style. Céline broke traditional literary conventions by using raw, working-class French, including slang, obscenities, and medical jargon. This creates a quote-unquote clinical and detached, yet sometimes quote-unquote hallucinatory narrative voice. The End of the Night. The title refers to a journey towards self-knowledge and the realization that there's no escape from the human condition. So The Doors. Despite the controversy surrounding Céline's later virulently anti-Semitic writings and his collaboration with the Vichy regime, his first novel remains a major influence on writers like Kurt Vonnegut, Jack Kerouac, Charles Bukowski, and Henry Miller. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, it is widely considered one of the greatest works of European literature. You can find various editions of the book through Barnes & Noble or used copies at Abe Books, in case you're interested.
I have read some Jack Kerouac, and that stuff is not easy to read. I'm just saying.
No SHIT. In the 90s, a resurgence of the beat poetry movement kind of came about in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, brought about by Ethan Hawke and his ilk, obviously. And I had a brief moment where I was in the Whitney Museum of American Art, wherein I saw him and a bunch of his friends on the same day I skipped school to go to the Whitney Museum. And it was the beat poetry exhibit too, by the way. My friend was really into it too. And of course, because he was into it, I was into it.
I got really into the beat movement and the hippie movement and all that and stuff when I was in my teens. So I attempted to read Tom Wolfe and Jack Kerouac and Ken Casey. Ken Casey was the only one that was fairly easy to digest because Tom Wolfe was so dense and I was so hard to read. And I'm a reader. I like to read, and I struggled through those books.
I just couldn't. From that song, let's just finish the book on Irene for a second. I would definitely want to go back to your comments on her obsession with Joe as a last thing, but there is a more prominent fixation or attention on the Phillips head screwdriver that she holsters like a sword on her back. I'm kind of wondering what that is about. It's really cool. The handle's all duct taped, first of all. There's just this mystery behind it, this persona that the show is drafted of this person.
She's sadistic too. When she kills the guy, she puts him in his car and ties his hands to the steering wheel and then stands there and watches him and like basically taunts him. She enjoys doing what she's doing. You find something you love, you never work a day in your life. So I mean, I feel like she's found something she is totally down with.
Yeah, there's a language on the show that they're enjoying her looking at him dying as a sort of, I don't know, maybe like a science experiment or an obsession of some kind. Maybe to go to your point about the Doors song, maybe she feels like it's her way to temporarily, because I'm going to make a bigger point when we talk about Joe, for her to escape her fate or her turmoil, let's say, because she feels like she's stuck here. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with her grandfather that we see later, obviously.
Mm.
I'm trapped here. There's no way for me to get out because I have to do this because my grandfather. And of course, when you're stuck somewhere, you fantasize about a different life. Part of the way she gets her jollies or she feels a sense of relief is to basically kill these people from the other class, the people who get to live their life normally.
If I make these people suffer, then they're suffering more than me. So therefore, I'm raised above them a little bit.
Yeah, that there's an equal or leveling of the playing field in my own way. Going back to the Phillips head, I thought that was interesting. The trapdoor to the fallout shelter is under a workbench in that garage. So there's some sort of connective tissue to the sword she has behind her back, but that's really a Phillips head screwdriver. It's just interesting. They're mythologizing her in a weird way, which I think is kind of cool. If not for the fact that she's a horrible human being for killing some people that are kind of adorable. Okay, going on the theme of her obsession with Joe, I think she sees him as trapped as well. Reading all the letters, probably, okay, knowing that he feels trapped between the world of being a lawman and being a husband that's been rejected, that his wife walked away from him. She is trying to identify with, oh, he's just like me. And the res is a way to maybe escape her current predicament too. And I hate to be a cliche, or maybe she does too, but like, you work with your hands. Nobody's like that anymore. Nobody builds things with their hands anymore. Men used to be the caregivers.
That might be why she's carrying a screwdriver. I dig dudes that can fix stuff, so shoo, let's drill some stuff.
Also, why am I always the one cleaning the messes? Why am I the caregiver? Isn't it the case that the men should be bringing home the bacon, that sort of thing? Maybe she wants to be taken care of for all of the sacrifices that she's given to her grandfather. And I can see a world in which she wants to be taken care of.
Oh, sure.
As sympathetic as I can be for somebody like that. And I have a lot of it to go around.
When Joe meets up with Emma, and she's like, it's great to be back at Indian Health. It feels great to be appreciated again.
Yeah.
Very pointed look at Joe when she said that.
I thought that at first too.
Yeah.
But then I remembered, and this is very important for the audience to remember too. Okay. Remember how we had that whole conversation in the last episode? Or it could have been the last episode, but it could have also been at the beginning of the season, that clearly Emma has been out of work since the article came out about what the Indian Health Center was doing to sterilize young women. Because at the end of the season, we're like, wait, has she been out of work the whole time? Since season 2, basically? And I think that was the case. So you go back to the diner where she says that, and I thought she was making a dig at Joe too. But no, she is back at work at the Indian Health Center, making a difference like she used to in prior seasons. But
yeah, it can mean both things, though.
Yeah. And I think the audience needs to remember that I think she was pushed out of the Indian Health Center because of that article, too. She could no longer work there, period. She was outed. We also have to remember one more thing is that when Joe finally tells her the secret, you have to keep all of that in mind, is that she doesn't have much to do because she's pushed out of work. Then she gets this drop, thing after thing, and then she leaves him because it's like, it's too much to bear. They meet, she's got a routine, feel like she has purpose, and she's not at the whims of her husband's work. He's the one who's lost. He's the one who doesn't have really much direction, and he's going to retire, blah, blah, blah. There's, like you said, we're trading places. But her favorite place is this diner. Did you get to read about what the source was as a restaurant? She says this, and I'm like, it's nothing. Does the source still exist as a restaurant? It doesn't, but the source, it's owned by another cult.
Oh.
Let me tell you what it is. This is the thing that blew my mind that I wanted Bridget to be in on, because out of all the things that we learned about this episode, this is the one that I wanted her to listen to. The Source family was a 1970s utopian commune and new religious movement in Los Angeles, led by the charismatic and controversial Father Yod, Y-O-D, born James Edward Baker. At its peak, the group had about 140 to 150 members, mostly young people, obviously. Like today, young people fall for the dumbest things, who lived together in a Los Feliz mansion and operated the famous Source vegetarian restaurant on the Sunset Strip. Let's talk about the leader, Father Yod. James Baker was a larger-than-life figure with a colorful, often violent past before becoming a guru. He was a dedicated World War II Marine and a Hollywood stuntman who once auditioned for the role of Tarzan. Criminal record: he was a convicted killer, claiming self-defense in 2 separate incidents using judo, and was rumored to have robbed several banks to fund his business ventures. Him as the guru, finally. After studying with Kundalini yoga master Yogi Bhajan, he formed his own philosophy, eventually declaring himself a god and taking 14 quote-unquote spiritual wives. This is her spot, by the way. This is Emma's spot. Emma's lovely, her favorite spot in the world. Lifestyle and beliefs. The family believed in a strict, albeit hedonistic code. Communal living. All members legally changed their last names to Aquarian. Example, Isis Aquarian. And their middle names to the. So Isis the Aquarian. Daily rituals. Life involved 4 a.m. meditation sessions, often enhanced by quote-unquote sacred herb, cannabis. And practice of, this is not the first time I've heard this, quote-unquote sex magic. This is Emma's spot, by the way. Quote
Blood
unquote.
sugar, sex magic. That's the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah. Well, now we know what they're all about. So their 10 commandments emphasized total obedience to Father Yod, sharing all possessions and eating a strictly organic vegetarian diet. Their music. The group formed a prolific psychedelic rock band called Yah-Ho-Wah 13, recording over 60 albums of improvised spiritual music that remains a cult favorite today.
I do not want to know what 16 hours of
60 albums of improvised spiritual music that remains a cult
spiritual
favorite
music. I do not want to listen to that.
And that it's a cult favorite today? Anyway, here's the dramatic end. The group's downfall began when they sold the restaurant and moved to Hawaii in 1974. The accident. On August 25th, 1975, Father Yod attempted to hang glide off a 1,300-foot cliff on Oahu, despite having no experience. I didn't expect me to laugh so hard.
He was pulling his own Icarus.
Well, you have to remember this guy was in entertainment too. He auditioned to be Tarzan, basically.
He would have totally had a TikTok.
Oh, he was so early. His death in visual. He crashed and died 9 hours later. Following their belief that death was an organic transition, the family sat with his body for 3.5 days before notifying authorities.
They were waiting for him to come back. He was gonna be a walker.
So here's how the cult finally dissolved. Without their leader, this is in capital letters, the family gradually disbanded, though many members remain in contact and have worked to preserve their archives through books and the 2012 documentary, The Source Family. The Source Family is a 2012 feature documentary film directed by Jody Weil and Maria Demopoulos, which recounts the story of Father Yod, the Yah-Ho-Wah 13 band, and the Source Family. Much material was gleaned from the group's official documentarian and one of Father Yod's wives, Isis the Aquarian. Doesn't say the, but I know it's there. Her archives provided photos, diary, film, cassette tapes of Yod's morning classes, lost music tapes, graphics, along with input interviews of Source family members and people who knew Jim Baker, Father Yod, and or went to the Source restaurant. Like
Jim
Emma.
Baker.
The film premiered in competition at South by Southwest Film Festival in 2012. Oh, that was right around the time where I went. And screened at festivals. In May 2013, the film was released theatrically, premiering at IFC Center in New York City, where its run was extended over a month. The film screened in 60 cities and had extended runs in Los Angeles, Portland, San Francisco, Nashville. It's distributed by Drag City and Gravitas Ventures. You can stream it now on Amazon Prime Video, probably. There's a streaming service called Canopy with a K, Hoopla, Fandango at Home, Pluto TV with ads, Daring Docs, Apple TV for a price. Yeah, so you could probably get it for free on Amazon Prime Video for the most part. Pluto TV, I think, is free, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Just get the app on your TV or on your phone. Oh, it looks like Curiosity Stream too. Okay. But I thought that was crazy.
When Emma said it's good to be appreciated again, you also have to remember Joe plain up said, I'm here looking for a runaway. I'm not here to see you. He hasn't answered her letters. I'm assuming he hasn't called her. So maybe that had something to do with it too. You come here and you don't appreciate me enough to even say that you're here to see me.
Maybe that's true. But I think also she makes it pretty clear that she has a lot going on. She likes being here. Though she misses home, she's in a good place. I don't think there's any harm in it. It's just Joe being Joe, like always. Which is, I think, probably why, to your point, why she doubts him when he says he's retiring. So maybe you have something going there.
And they've kind of made it clear that he said he's going to retire several times and he's never done it. Because even Bernadette's like, thing. Yeah, you for real this time? Or
well, especially now that we know, okay, we're in season 4 and we know season 5 is in production, by the way. It's already been greenlit way before the season ever started. So he's got to be there.
For all of you guys out there watching The Pit, Robbie says he's going to leave for 3 months.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you Robbie's not going anywhere for 3 months. He's going to end up being like, no, I'm going to stay here and work. I'm not taking my sabbatical.
There may be a Chekhov's gun. You know how you get to the part with Irene Vaughan? She goes to her room. She tacks Joe's photo, which is really a photo of Joe and Emma folded, onto her mirror. But before you get to all of that, the first thing you see is the handcuffs on the wall and the clamps. I feel like that's a Chekhov's gun. Why would you show me handcuffs and clamps if you're not going to use them later? Just before you hang a picture up of Joe on your mirror?
She's going to torture Joe into loving her.
Well, here's the thing. Where do we see Joe at the end of the episode? He's confronting 2 individuals who are also staking out the place, right?
Right.
I assume that they're the feds, but do you concur?
I actually had no thought of who they were. I didn't even think about the
Oh,
feds. I was thinking the members of the gang or whatever that were watching and saw him sneaking around or whatever. People that were watching the party or whatever,
you think it could be journalists?
more like bouncers, security types.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Obviously, these people are all wound up in some shady stuff. So I figured it was
Right.
like security bouncer type
But
people
why would they
that
have a
saw
camera, the
Joe
security
sneaking around
bouncers?
to see people sneaking around.
The only reason why you would need a camera is if you were running a blackmail scheme. If you see somebody shady coming into your
If
club,
you wanted to know that the cops or someone's about to roll up into your place, then you have cameras to see that. I'm not saying that's who it is. In the 70s, you'd have to have some money to have security cameras like that. It's not now where you can buy a security setup for $100.
it's like a photography camera, though.
It looked like a video camera.
It was like a camera, like on a tripod. I'll give you one thing. I don't remember seeing like one of those telephoto lenses. It was a wide angle lens. They were grabbing general photos of the parking lot. They weren't really telephoto lensing into anyone specific. I don't know.
security, and they saw Joe sneaking around in the dark.
Well, I only say this as follows because I have this vision in my head now that Irene is going to save Joe from these people, whoever they are. Because if it is the feds, like McNair said, the feds are going to be sniffing around now that you've been murdering people across state lines. Remember, they took photos of Ashley Begay's murder. So McNair knows that the feds are sniffing around, and if they go back home and they're just going to surveil his, or I'm assuming it's his and Sonny's bar, let's say, he's affiliated with Sonny in some fashion, they're onto him. And there's a case. And if somebody's killing all the witnesses for that case that they're trying to nail him down on, killing all the witnesses one by one.
It's not suspicious at all when a bunch of people who are going to testify start dropping dead.
Right.
Committing suicide by tying their hands to the wheel of a car. I'm sure she removed
Hence the gas mask.
Yeah.
So I can see a world in which, in order to tie her loose ends, she kills the agents and saves Joe, just like he's supposed to save her from her life of drudgery. I am kind of excited for that, if that's going to be the case. A little bit, because it's kind of messy, and I would love to see that untangled somehow. Because I feel like, when you put somebody in a situation that is messy and gross and weird, truth comes out of that. Truth that comes out of being in captivity or in a situation where your life is in danger. So I think in tangling with her, he's going to tangle with something inside of him. Like, so you're not going to get the answers out of elders and sweats and bucks that tell you it's time to move on. I feel like he's going to get the answers from that other side of him, the catharsis, the solving crimes and righting wrongs side.
Maybe they brought it up twice now. Him doing all of these things for Emma and not for himself. This is going to be something that pushes him to do these things for himself and not just to impress or win back Emma.
To your point, I noted the fact that she said, "I'm happy for you," which made me go, "Ugh!" I felt bad inside when she said that.
I did.
Didn't
I was
it?
like, ew, yeah. Like,
I'm happy for you, Joe. Oh, that's not, I don't want to hear that. That's the worst kind of "I'm happy for you." It's like when Bridget says, "I love that for you." And I'm like, that doesn't sound like you do.
Bless your heart. You're not really blessing my heart.
I think she means it. It just didn't feel right. It's not what Joe wants to hear for sure. He wants to hear, "That makes me so happy." That's what I want to hear.
What he wanted to hear was, "That's awesome. I'm going to come live back home with you again."
That's awesome. When can I move back?
Yeah. And like he tried to entice her back with tomatoes. Like, look, come back and have some tomatoes. He's not so great a detective that he realized that Irene ate one of his tomatoes. Like that would have been a little bit too far. I built the fence for you. Come back and eat your tomatoes.
I think there's a part of her that does want to come back. I think she needs something from Joe first, though. And it's something that we don't know. And it's something definitely that's embedded in the letters or something. I don't know. I just want to briefly flick back to that person who I think is connected to those people that take down Joe. I think that girl is part of the FBI that talks to Billy and says, Albert and Leroy, and like, you should get the hell away if that German lady's out there. Because I think she's definitely been hired by the FBI or whoever those people are.
Yeah, because they're not like checking IDs at the door or anything. People are just walking in.
Oh, lady. They were never checking IDs until like the late 90s.
I didn't go out to bars much, so I did, but my mom worked in the bars, so I could get in without being carded.
I remember the year that people really started checking for IDs everywhere.
If you're running an illegal thing, you don't want just random people walking up into your illegal thing. You know what I mean?
Then again, she did go in through the back door, so there's that, which is where Byrne was.
Nobody checked Byrne. Like, oh, here's this beautiful woman just showing up.
Would you check Burn?
Hey, there was a lot of dudes that was checking Burn.
Out, but not checking her for ID. If she's not of age, I don't want to know. But what they're
Sonny
thinking.
was eyeballing her hard when she left with Chee.
Yes.
Not in a sexual way, but like eyeballing her, like, who are you and why are
this
you
lady
leaving
carrying
with
him
this
out?
guy? Right.
Yeah. Well, because if he didn't already have suspicions, now they're validated in some way. Like, who is this person? I didn't say what I got to say about that lady who confronted Billy. She says something very key that ties in a little bit of the things we were saying earlier. She says, Leroy is not the kind of guy to disappear, which
Right.
I think we should keep in our minds. I honestly don't know what that means, but I think it feeds into what you were saying about maybe the Philip Grayson guy is Leroy.
It means he's hiding as someone else on the reservation.
There you go.
Yeah. There's no internet for someone to look up and say, this is what he looks like.
Right. There's no reference materials. There's no social media.
Because he would have pictures of himself. Look at, I'm hanging at this Airstream for the summer. Look at me.
I'm feeling myself today. He's taking a selfie with his camera.
Laundry day. TikTok laundry day.
Tuesday's laundry day. Hashtag, right?
We got a glimpse of old Chee for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
When she goes, are you on something? And he's like, yeah. It was so funny. Yeah.
He says, I love you to her. He says bye, generally speaking. Bye. Which, okay, that made me feel a lot better considering the fact that he was kind of a dill hole, but obviously we're seeing him go through it. Seeing that was kind of like the saving grace to me.
Indian Center.
Indian Center. Go! Like he's like Napoleon Dynamite. Napoleon Chee.
Wilshire Avenue, gosh.
Wilshire and Oxford. Go! The new Indian Center, by the way, is now on Wilshire and Mariposa. It's in an office building and it's on the first floor. Just so everybody knows, it's not far off from where it was.
Do they still call it the Indian Center?
Probably. That's what it was in Google Maps. Yep. But Native Americans still do reference themselves as Indians also. They just got used to it. So when she heads into the bar initially to meet with Sonny, and Sonny's flipping through cars, he gets from Manila envelope, which is interesting. Like, what is that all about?
That is someone who is casing cars that they want to steal.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
That's why he asked me if you could drive. You can go snag that car and take off with it.
Okay, cool. This is like a network then. It's like a criminal conglomerate of shady dealings. Obviously, drugs is involved. Maybe even girls. Ooh, gross. Okay, so Jesse Ed Davis's Red Dirt Boogie brother plays. First of all, Jesse Ed Davis is part Comanche, part Kiowa tribe. The song is about basically his music. The Red Dirt refers to Oklahoma. It's an unapologetic declaration of his identity as an independent Oklahoma-born rock musician, rejecting labels of being a follower or just a quote-unquote sideman. His music is akin to roots music. It's a blend of rock and blues, and his status as an indigenous Kiowa/Comanche. So I thought that was kind of cool. This is the Kiowa reference, and Kiowa Gordon plays Jim Chee. So I thought that was kind of cool. Why did I bring that up again? I forgot. Oh, because we were talking about American Indian. So I thought that was a good tie-in for that. Oh, I did say I would hurt myself physically if I didn't mention who Opa Gunta Vagan was. Gunta Vagan is played by the legendary science fiction actor Udo Kier. Let me just read his IMDb bio because I thought that was the most accurate version of it. Beginning his life with the same flair for the dramatic that would come to define his career, Udo Kier was born in Cologne, Germany, near the end of the Second World War. The hospital was bombed and buried Kier and his mother in the rubble. Both survived, obviously. And Kier would later move to London as a young adult to study English. Kier was discovered in London by Michael Sarna, who casted him in his first role as a gigolo in Road to Saint-Tropez. Kier then starred in Michael Armstrong's extremely controversial Mark of the Devil. He would go on to work with Paul Morrissey and Andy Warhol's Flesh for Frankenstein and Blood for Dracula, Dario Argento in Suspiria, and Rainer Werner Fassbinder in The Third Generation, Lily Marlin, and Lola. So this is where you're going to really get to know who Kier is. Kier entered the American independent cinema scene many years later after meeting Gus Van Sant at the Berlin Film Festival. Van Sant offered Kier the role of Hans, the lamp signing John in My Own Private Idaho, with Keanu Reeves in River Phoenix. He would later have roles in Gus Van Sant's Even Cowgirls Get the Blues, and Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot, as well as such 90s Hollywood hits as Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, Johnny Mnemonic, Barbed Wire, End of Violence, For the Love or Money, Armageddon, Blade.
For the Love of Money.
Oh, maybe it's of money, but it says or money here. Blade, Wesley Snipes, End of Days. Keir is probably best known for his collaboration with Lars von Trier, appearing in most of his films, including Medea, Europa, Breaking the Waves, Dancer in the Dark with Bjork, Dogville, Manderley, Melancholia, Nymphomaniac Volume 2, and The Kingdom, the Danish television production.
I am 1000% sure that I know him because he was in Ace Ventura.
He's such a handsome man, by the way. I know he's
All
getting
those
on
other
in years.
movies, I'm like, I haven't seen any of those. I has to be Ace Ventura.
Keir's recent renaissance has seen him play memorable roles in Activision game Call of Duty, numerous television roles in North America and Europe, and the films Iron Sky, Brawl in Cellblock 99, Downsizing, American Animals, Bucaro, and Painted Bird, The Blazing World, and Swan Song, among many others. He's been in so many things, by the way. If I even go to his IMDb page, incredible B actor in terms of like American shows and films. He's been in 276 productions, and he's still going to be in 3 upcoming ones, including our little episode, Dark Winds, The Ark and Iron Sky Story post-production, and another video game, OD. He's a legend, and I'm so happy he's here, by the way. This episode was a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad we got to talk about basically everything I wanted to really talk about, I think. All the little Easter eggy things. I would have exploded if I didn't see something regarding Chee's past. And we do get to see his mom take a photo like the lady in The Indian Setter who's taking a photo of herself. He didn't want to be here. Everything was going to be okay. And then it wasn't okay. So there's that. You did get to see her eat the tinned meat in the car, something we talked about in the last episode. And as far as the guy she murders in the beginning, I had thought, just to say out loud, he's definitely somebody that has some sort of evidence that she had to take for herself. And maybe part of that evidence, maybe he's an accountant, maybe he is a writer or script writer. But there was a file on a Richard Gibson that was in the filing cabinet that they actually focused in on. And I was like, oh, who's Richard Gibson? I had to look it up. I'm like, I couldn't find anything relevant to the time period. But he could be somebody that has just files on all these different people, things that he can use to blackmail other people later. He's obviously living alone. He only has a photo of he and his dog. So it could be anything. I don't know exactly what it is.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back after these messages.
We just thought we'd remind you to show this episode some love by tapping that like button, if there's one to be tapped, subscribing to our podcast or channel, and if available, enabling all notifications, and sharing the show, or clips of it, with everyone you know. And don't be afraid to reach out. Leave your questions, feedback, ideas, or even concerns in the comments section. There isn't one? Head on over to ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead and leave your thoughts there. Rating our podcast is the best way to get our attention because it also boosts our visibility. And we'll probably address it in the next episode too. And if you think there's something to what we're doing here at Squawking Dead, tip us over on Ko-fi. As a token of our appreciation, you'll receive forever access to our Discord, along with 30 days access to our uncut episode and interview recordings, plus our pre-squawk insights. Take your support further. Join a membership tier on either ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or patreon.com/squawkingdead, and you'll unlock access to more channels on our Discord server, receive shoutouts at the end of every episode, and depending on what tier you join, the ability to join us on camera and mic to break down future episodes alongside us. Thank you for hearing us out and making it this far into the episode.
We now return you to our regularly scheduled podcast.
Oh, there's one more thing. Classic Dave thing. Did you notice that when they were hovering over the Hollywood sign, that a piece of it was missing on the O?
Huh.
That is a holdover. Back in the day, the Hollywood sign was made of metal and wood, basically. And over time, it started eroding away. Severe windstorms combined with decades of neglect, termite damage, structural decay of the original 1923 wood sheet and metal. Eventually, people were taking pictures of the Hollywood sign, and it notably looked like it was saying Hollywood, Hull. Anyway, Hollywod, because the last O kind of fell apart because of fire.
I think they started really rebuilding it and stuff in the 80s.
Just before that, the damage was so severe that the entire sign was torn down and replaced with a new steel structure later in 1978, funded by a campaign led by, you'll never guess, Playboy man himself,
Hefner?
Hugh Hefner.
Do you know the origins of the Hollywood sign?
I don't. It was called Hollywoodland, right?
It was for like a housing development that was built called Hollywoodland, and then they tore the land part down and just kept the Hollywood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
There's
cool.
a lot more
It was-
detail to it than that, but that's the basics.
So erected in 1923, the original Hollywood sign actually read Hollywoodland.
Hollywoodland.
Los Angeles Times publisher Harry Chandler had built it as a billboard advertising his upscale real estate development. The 40-foot high white block letters were anchored to telephone poles and illuminated by 4,000 20-watt bulbs spaced 8 inches apart, much like a Las Vegas billboard. The sign lit up for 4 stages, Hollywood and then land, then the entire word. It was only supposed to be up for a year and a half, but has instead stood for over 8 decades. This is from visitforfun.com. And the whole thing to fix it cost $27,700. Alice Cooper buying the O in honor of Groucho Marx, while singing cowboy Gene Autry sponsored an L. Hefner himself bought the Y. Because of this, the sign finally had the funding for an overhaul, with this old sign scrapped in August 1978. After 3 months, the new sign was revealed on November 11th, 1978, as the finale of a live CBS television special commemorating the city's 75th anniversary. That's cool. Well, in any case, I think that's really it, folks. This is a very dense episode. Obviously, a lot more went on. Rachel will be proud. And so with that, I say thank you for joining Sharon D and I on this lovely little journey into the world of Dark Winds. Have a nice day, but in Lakota.
It happens.
Yeah. Bye. We'll see you real soon. I'm excited for the next episode. I hope it gets less complicated. We'll put it to you that way.
No, you don't.
I kind of do, though. It's a lot. Just like LA was for everybody else in the show. All right. We'll see you later, folks.
Bye.
Have a good one. Thank you for making it to the end of yet another episode of Squawking Dead. This one, Dark Wind's 4th episode of its 4th season, titled Ániidí, The New World. And if this is your first time, well, how about that? I hope you come back for more, especially Dark Winds, but obviously we talk about other series as well. And you've reached the part of the podcast where we shout out our supporters. It's a little perk that they receive among many perks. And you should check out some of those perks when you head on over to either Ko-fi or Patreon. That's ko-fi.com/Squawking Dead or patreon.com/Squawking Dead. One of them is the ability to get the uncut version of this episode along with my pre-squawk insights, the notes I take during our second watch or third, with all the links that take you to some of the resources I provide. Skipping past the survivors tier, which is our junior producer tier, which entitles you to the core channel in our Discord server, which is where we talk about all things development, that you will have a critical part in helping us decide certain things. We're going to move on to our Whisperers members, starting with Jason. You can find on Instagram via @NeosTheOne, that's @NEOS, the number 1, HEONE. Rob Lucchese, who you can reach on TikTok via @RobsStuff_N as in Nancy _Thangs, THANGS. And of course, Kim Rowley, who you can find on Facebook via @Kim.Rowley, the number 1. I've already watched the 5th episode of Dark Winds, and I can't wait to talk about it. Now that A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is behind us, and The Boys is in front of us, and all throughout, I'm watching Paradise on Hulu and thinking, why didn't we jump on this series sooner? The answer really is, all jokes aside, because even when the first season of Paradise came out, so many things were happening at the same time. Such is the case now, and it's just one of those things that I wish we were doing this full time so that we can actually talk about the series. But alas, we're stretched so very thin as it is right now. We all have full-time gigs. This is definitely not a moneymaker, it's a money taker. And that's where you come in, hopefully. The folks who've been helping us right now that we just mentioned and that you're seeing on the screen right now, if you're watching on Spotify or YouTube, they do their best, but it's definitely not enough. And we could use way, way, way more help than we're getting. And to those of you who have been supporting us, thank you for keeping the lights on. It's a struggle, but we do it out of love, and hopefully we can keep doing it. Thanks to you. With that, I say, when all else fails, just remember that we are Squawking Dead.